Chances are, if you're watching this, you grew up watching Nickelodeon. Yeah, let me ask you this. When did Nickelodeon start going downhill? I'm sure the answer you just shouted at your screen was probably different depending on what generation you grew up in. If you were born in the 90s, you probably said the early or mid-2000s. And if you were born in the 2000s, you probably said the 2010s, and so on. No matter what your answer was, one thing is true. There is an era of Nickelodeon special for everyone, no matter your age. Me, I was born in 1996, so most of my childhood was spent watching Nickelodeon shows that started at the tail end of the 90s, alongside some of the newer stuff from the early 2000s. But for over the past decade, Nickelodeon has tried time and time again to cater to fans of their classic content, whether it be DVDs, television blocks, or streaming. Since the dawn of social media, I'm talking MySpace, Facebook, people have been clamoring to be able to re-watch their favorite shows from their childhoods. The requests wouldn't stop coming in, and Nickelodeon took notice eventually. Going back in time to around 2005, cable television was still doing very well, and the idea of online streaming was very much in its infancy. Heck, that was the year YouTube launched. In terms of kids networks, all three major ones offered ways for viewers to watch full episodes and clips online through their respective websites. The biggest downsides to this, though, meant quality wasn't the best and full seasons were hardly ever available, if at all. Most of the content offered through these services were only current shows at the time. If you wanted to watch a much older show from any of these networks to its completion, let's just say you were out of luck. I'd argue 2005 was around the time people really started pining for a way to see their favorite Nickelodeon shows of days past. Most of their older programming was no longer airing on the main network. If you wanted to watch a very limited selection of older Nickelodeon shows, you'd have to pay up for their digital offerings Nicktoons Network, The N, and Nick Gas. In fact, these digital channels were how I caught my first glimpses at shows like Clarissa Explains It All, Ren and Stimpy, The Adventures of Pete and Pete, and many of the classic game shows at such a young age. Nickelodeon's first attempt at a nostalgia-focused block came with the first iteration of NickRewind. Launched on April 16, 2006 without much fanfare, the block aired for 1 hour every Sunday afternoon and featured select Nicktoons that viewers could vote for online. The top 2 would get shown on the main network every week. During commercial breaks, classic Nickelodeon bumpers would play. This iteration of NickRewind only lasted around 5 months, ending on September 24, 2006, despite being preempted a few times for movies or special presentations. The NickRewind block was also probably used as a promotional tie-in for the short-lived DVD collection of the same name. Only the first season of Clarissa Explains It All and the first 2 seasons of The Adventures of Pete and Pete were released as part of this collection. Most notably, Clarissa's DVD set had some weird color correction applied to the episodes. On the plus side though, some old-school Nickelodeon promos and bumpers were included as special features. Season 3 of Pete and Pete and Volume 1 of You Can't Do That on Television were both announced for release but quietly cancelled, thus bringing an end to the collection. Supposedly, the third Pete and Pete set was completed, bonus features and all, but never saw the light of day. You Can't Do That on Television sets are presumed to have been cancelled due to the fact that Nickelodeon does not have full ownership of the series. In 2008, Nickelodeon partnered up with Amazon to release volumes and seasons of their shows through Amazon's CreateSpace program. Unfortunately, all the DVD sets made through the CreateSpace program were manufactured on demand, which meant that individual season releases could cost upwards of $35 since they were burned to DVD-R discs and made to order. Some seasons would also be missing episodes leading to best of sets. For example, Rugrats Season 2 and Doug Season 4. Rugrats Season 2 didn't even get a complete set until 2014, 6 years after the original release. For many years, people including me put off buying these releases. They would be released at a relatively cheaper and affordable price much later down the line. Fast forward about 2 years later and the young adults are starting to embrace 90s nostalgia. Nickelodeon took advantage of this nostalgia rush and launched a NickRewind section for on-demand services in 2010. Little did we know this was a test for something much bigger. On March 10, 2011, Nickelodeon announced The 90s Are All That, a new late-night programming block for the Teen Nick channel. In the Block announcement's original press release, Nickelodeon even acknowledged that there were 9 million fans of their classic content on just Facebook by itself. The Block was originally slated to premiere in October, airing nightly from midnight to 2 a.m., and featuring a varied schedule of 90s Nick favorites, including acquired programming. On June 22nd, 90s Nick fans were treated to a nice surprise. A promo featuring Kenan Thompson sitting on the iconic orange couch, proudly declaring that Team Nick is bringing back 90s Nickelodeon. It was with this promo the Block's premiere date got pushed from October to July 25th, and the Block would only be airing on weeknights. Fans were speculating on what would be first to air on the Block. The possibilities were endless. Prior to the Block's launch, Nickelodeon announced a partnership with home video distributor Shout Factory to release seasons of their library shows on DVD, leading to some of the Amazon releases being discontinued. Some library shows were added to iTunes for purchase too. Facebook and Twitter pages were launched to help spread the word and bring 90s Nick fans together to discuss their favorite memories and the Block itself. A website dedicated to the Block featuring full episodes, clips, and social media posts was launched as well. Over the next few weeks, Nickelodeon began to air promos on air and steadily give updates leading to the Block's premiere. The Block began promptly at midnight on July 25th with the 90s Are All That anthem by DJ Steve Porter leading into All That. The first night's ratings showed major success as the total viewership average went up 114% compared to the year before. Most of the series aired on the Block aired their episodes in production order. However, All That and Clarissa started their runs from Season 2 for unknown reasons. Season 1 of All That in particular has not been seen on the air since 2005. And the only copies that survive out in the wild to this day are personal low-quality VHS recordings. All That also had its music performances cut due to licensing issues despite airing on the N only 3 years prior. Kenan and Kel wasn't exempt from having issues over the air either. Episodes frequently aired incomplete, having their curtain call endings cut for commercial time. In one instance, during an airing of the episode Diamonds Are for Roger, the second half of the Cold War episode aired after returning from a commercial break instead. Thankfully, Clarissa and Doug mostly aired without any major hiccups. At launch, the Block's packaging was created by Brooklyn-based branding agency, the Lifelong Friendship Society, who had previously worked with Nick on the Halo Awards. The 90s Are All That's bumpers felt very Adult Swim-like, with text, show clips, and graphics on plain backgrounds set to hip-hop or electronic beats, fitting perfectly with the Block's late-night time slot. Remixed versions of classic Nickelodeon bumpers also aired to much dismay from fans, hoping to see the uncut originals. The Block also featured moderately heavy social media integration with on-air tweets and viewer-requested lineups. On Monday, September 5th, 2011, the lineup changed for the first time with the additions of Rocko's Modern Life and Hey Arnold. All That and Kenan and Kel became mainstays moving forward. On this night, Stick Stickly's return was teased. The lineup reverted back to Clarissa and Doug on September 26th because those two shows supposedly had better ratings. Around this time, Stick Stickly's return was fully revealed as You Pick with Stick. Viewers could go to the90sarallthat.com and vote from a selection of 8 different shows each week as often as they liked. The top 4 would then go on the air every Friday night starting October 7th. The titular host, originally from Nick in the Afternoon, was voiced by Paul Christie, and the bumpers were definitely aimed at an older crowd using plenty innuendos. For example, one bumper parodied Jersey Shore, which was popular on MTV at the time. You Pick also allowed for lesser popular Nick shows like Space Cases to get a chance on the air again. The debut of You Pick brought a time shift and expansion for the 90s Are All That, now airing at 10 p.m. and on weekends. The weekend expansion also brought the Block's premiere of Hey Dude on Saturday, October 8th. The time shift proved to be a failed experiment as the Block moved back to midnight just in time for Stick or Treat Halloween weekend, citing lower ratings in the 10 p.m. time slot despite the fact that the change was barely promoted to begin with. During Stick or Treat weekend, episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark were showcased for the first time. On Halloween night, the Block aired Crybaby Lane for the first time on television since its initial Nickelodeon premiere in 2000. After the movie's 2000 premiere, it completely disappeared from the airwaves and was believed to have been banned by the network. Around the time the block launched, Crybaby Lane was found, and internet users would begin to discuss the movie again in the form of a creepypasta, which led to renewed interest and Nickelodeon airing the film again. Nickelodeon played into the dramatics of the creepypasta when in actuality, the film wasn't banned. It was either just forgotten, or Nick didn't see any financial incentive in showing the film anymore. Crybaby Lane has since shown up on Team Nick's schedule multiple times in the last decade. In November, You Pick with Stick's format was already seeing a bit of a change. Still on Friday nights, viewers could now vote between two shows going head to head, and the show with the most votes would get a marathon that night. Also in November, Hey Dude left its time slot. The most notable event from that December was Party Like It's the 90s. The block tried its best to emulate classic Snick lineups from the latter half of the decade, and also aired unedited versions of classic Nick bumpers and promos. Obscure shows like The Journey of Alan Strange were aired, but Kablam and Animorphs were exempt, most likely due to rights issues. On New Year's Eve, Stick Clark hosted the Countdown to 2012. From 10 p.m. to midnight, the block showcased series finales of Doug, Keenan and Kel, Alex Mack, and Clarissa. Throughout the 2 hours, Stick prepared himself mentally and physically to be dipped in a substance of viewer's choice, the winning choice being slime. Face from Nick Jr. even made a cameo to give Stick some encouragement. At the stroke of midnight, Stick was dipped and people partying in Times Square sang in rejoicement. Afterwards, the first episodes of select shows were aired for the rest of the night. To start off 2012, the 90s Are All That gave Stick a bit of a break after all the partying. The block also began airing Season 4 of All That after recycling through Seasons 2 and 3 several times over. Season 5 eventually began airing later in the year. Stick returned in February to document his trip with Woodknot to Indianapolis for Super Bowl 46. Rocko's Modern Life won the You Pick Showdown for that weekend. In March, Stick stopped by New York City for the St. Patrick's Day Parade and celebrated with parade goers. These bumpers would air on the weekend of March 23rd and be part of a Salute Your Shorts marathon. This would be the last time Stick would host an event for the 90s Are All That for over a year. The week after, the 90s Are All That aired a week-long event called KCA Back in the Day where clips from classic KCA shows played during the commercial breaks. After this event ended, problems started to arise. You Pick became an online exclusive event and episodes of the winning show would be uploaded to the block's website. This also didn't last very long. There would barely be any changes to the block's schedule, essentially having it run on autopilot. The block now tended to favor All That, Keenan and Kel, Rugrats, and Hey Arnold over anything else. If you were lucky, maybe Cat Dog would get sprinkled in for good measure. The schedule would not get any change whatsoever until the weekend of August 3rd to celebrate the 2012 Summer Olympics with Legends of the Hidden Temple, Double Dare, and Figure It Out. October brought more episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark to celebrate Halloween, but nothing else super special. Thanksgiving saw marathons of Arnold and Rugrats because we totally didn't have enough of that, right? 2012 was a bad year for the block as it started a problem that would linger for years to come, as we'll see later. The beginning of 2013 was not much better. The year started off poorly with week-long marathons for one show each week in January. Shows already seen on the block: Clarissa, Doug, Rugrats, Keenan and Kel, Hey Arnold.
Because you can never have enough Rugrats and Hey Arnold, right?
Oh, sorry, I got carried away again. Oops. Anyway, March saw the 90s Are All That commemorate the Kids' Choice Awards again. This time with Your Choice Awards from the week of March 18th through the 22nd. Viewers voted in 90s Nick-themed categories through the blog's website, with the winning show airing at midnight, and a Rugrats marathon occupying the rest of the block.
Because you can...
Okay, Gary, calm down, that's enough. In the lead up to April Fool's Day, the 90s Are All That began promoting the premiere of a never-before-seen episode of Rocko's Modern Life. In the end, it was 22 minutes of mayo, which is a reference to the Wacky Deli episode of Rocko when Ralph Bighead tries to deliberately sabotage his new hit show by putting a can of mayonnaise on screen for a full time slot. The week before Memorial Day saw the 90s Are All That's Memorial Week, where the block implemented fan-submitted memes into episodes of shows that have already been airing for long enough. I guess that freshens things up a little. In May, the block got a time shift, now starting an hour earlier at 11 p.m. The month of June featured Nick TV movies like Runaway Reptar, Two Heads Are Better Than None, The Great Parent Mystery, and Aw, Here It Goes to Hollywood. The next schedule change would come on August 3rd when Legends of the Hidden Temple won the 90s Nick Face-Off that took place on their Facebook page to determine the best 90s Nick show. You can never go wrong with a giant talkin' rock. From August 5th through the 8th, Stick Stickly returned once again to host 90s greatest game show moments. The block aired one game show a night and featured highlights during commercial breaks. I was happy to see more game shows, but only airing one a night was such a bummer. On Saturday, August 17th, the 90s Are All That celebrated Snick's 21st anniversary by airing the original 1992 Snick lineup with All That in lieu of Roundhouse, which Nick no longer owned the rights to at that time. For the week of September 23rd, the block televised The 90s Are All Cat, which saw cats edited into episodes, shows having punny names, and featured pictures of viewers' cats during commercial breaks. There was even a cat keyboard music game available to play on the block's website. This was such an out of left field idea. I remember being so confused when the promos started airing, but I loved cats, so I couldn't complain. It was honestly very charming and creative. October came with a bit of a surprise. On the 14th, the 90s Are All That got a total packaging refresh. The idea of the bumps were still the same, but hey, it's new content. The same can't be said for the lineup though, as the regular schedule stayed mostly the same as always. November brought us another surprise in the form of the block's first acquired program. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers aired from the 8th through the 10th. Episodes didn't actually repeat after 2 a.m. and each of them aired off the clock, meaning 9 episodes aired each night, totaling 27 for the weekend. This marks the only time an acquired show aired on the block. I was never really a fan of Power Rangers myself, but it was nice to see for the fans. From December 23rd until January 12th, 2014, the block aired what they called late night goodies, special presentations of rarely seen shows every night at 1:30. This gave us the block's introduction of My Brother and Me, which had not been on the air since 2000. Other shows that hadn't aired on the block in a while, like The Secret World of Alex Mack, All Real Monsters, and Hey Dude, got the spotlight. The 90s Are All That remained stagnant for almost the entirety of 2014. Rocket Power joined on June 7th as the first major schedule change in over a year, to celebrate the show's 15th anniversary. The only other major event in 2014 worth noting is the Hey Dude 25th Anniversary Marathon from July 14th. This marathon featured cast interviews during commercial breaks. All excitement for the block was pretty much dead at this point, especially on my end. 2015 was a pretty big improvement from the previous year. For the week of March 30th, the 90s Are All That aired specials out of the vault. The biggest surprise from this event was the block's premiere of Wienerville, which had not been seen on the air since 1997 due to Nickelodeon losing the licenses for the cartoons that would play during the show. For the weekend of May 2nd, the 90s Are All That aired an Angry Beavers marathon and even had Stick roast the Beavers. Wednesday, June 17th saw the return of Weekly You Pick as Stick went on a cross-country road trip to Comic-Con. This event lasted until sometime in July and would be the last major event for the 90s Are All That's run. One major highlight from this event was the first airing of the Stick Stickly special Stuck since 1997. On September 11th, 2015, the block updated its social media name to The Splat, and uploaded a teaser accompanied with the hashtag #TheSplatIsComing. The announcement would be celebrated and teased even more at 90s Fest 2015 the day after in Brooklyn, New York. Fans were left speculating what the Splat would be. Many assumed it would most likely be a 24-hour channel replacing Teen Nick, or another programming block. On September 24th, the Splat was fully revealed to be a replacement for the 90s Are All That, launching on Monday, October 5th from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. The former president of Viacom's Kids and Family Group, Seema Zargami, stated that the network was aiming to give nostalgic fans a retro experience they couldn't find anywhere else. A website launch coincided with the block and served as a hub for the Splat's social media posts. The first week of programming was called First Time for Everything, featuring the first couple episodes of Nickelodeon's most popular shows. To the surprise of fans, the Splat's first week of programming featured Teen Nick premieres of You Can't Do That on Television, Welcome Freshman, Roundhouse, All Grown Up, and As Told by Ginger. You Can't Do That on Television had not been seen on the air since half an episode aired during Nickelodeon's 25th birthday celebration in 2004. Welcome Freshman left the airwaves around 1996. Roundhouse was previously last aired during the network's 20th birthday celebration in 1999, and As Told by Ginger aired its pilot episode for the first time on television here. Wienerville also aired a couple more episodes during the launch week and even included Nicktoon episodes in between segments this time. The Splat's packaging was handled by New York City-based branding agency Sibling Rivalry, who worked on the 2014 Nicktoons rebrand. These bumpers arguably set the late night tone even better than the 90s Are All That's bumpers did. They featured lots of bright and colorful neon backgrounds with kinetic elements, remix show clips and bumpers, as well as animated characters in real-world environments, and other nods to Nick's past. The block sign-ons were some of the most creative, often having actors or characters read tongue-in-cheek caution advisories. During the first few months of the Splat, the lineup changed weekly, usually showcasing a mini marathon for a specific show each week. For example, a Rugrats marathon titled Reptar Takeover Week, a Hey Arnold marathon titled Hey Stoop Kid, a Ren and Stimpy marathon titled Happy Happy Joy Joy, featuring Andy Milonakis as Stinky Wizzleteats, and more. Most of these marathons would start off the block and last around 2 hours each night, with the rest of the block being mostly Nicktoons. For Halloween 2015, the Splat brought back the iconic Nick or Treat event. Y'all ain't gonna catch me slipping, where viewers could call in and play a virtual game to win prizes, one of the biggest prizes being the Splat prize pack. Another fun element of the Halloween packaging was the fake movie trailers, the Splatgeist one being my favorite. During the week of Thanksgiving, the block aired the Nick's Thanksgiving Fest special, which last aired during the mid-90s. This week also saw the Teen Nick premiere of Rugrats Go Wild. On December 18th, the Splat held a trivia night from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. At the end of each hour, the person with the most points won a Splat prize pack. The top 5 players periodically got featured as part of the on-air leaderboards. I remember almost making it on the leaderboards in the last round. The week leading up to Christmas saw various holiday specials, bumpers, and even a Yule Log special aired on Christmas Eve featuring Log from Ren and Stimpy. New Year's Eve saw the block ringing in 2016 like it was 1996, and started the year by running episodes and shows that debuted in 1996. January 2016 saw a few more weekly marathons including Wild Thornberries before switching to a more regular lineup. After this, the weekday lineup remained pretty much stagnant with Rugrats, Arnold, Angry Beavers, Cat Dog. Do you see the pattern? They must be the highest rated shows from the 90s or all that era. For the week of February 8th, Stick was brought back to host You Pick one last time. Viewers were instructed to vote via Twitter every day for what they wanted to see the next night. Classic interstitials from Nick in the Afternoon aired this week, as well as fan art and pictures of Stick with fans. The following Saturday saw a 2-hour YouPick marathon determined by fan votes under the hashtag YouPickTheSplat. The shows that won the Saturday YouPick were Rocco, Legends of the Hidden Temple, As Told by Ginger, and Keenan and Kel. This was the last time the block ever featured Stick Stickly in any capacity. Also in February, the block began Throwback Thursday, featuring classic Nick bumpers and promos almost completely unedited. Unfortunately, some bumpers suffered from cropping to fit modern screens, but most of them still maintained their original aspect ratios. For the week of March 7th, the Splat showcased Nickelodeon episodes featuring special guest stars, some before they were famous, with celebrity splatting. For the weekend of April 16th, the Splat celebrated the 22nd anniversary of All That, with a cast reunion on the orange couch where they reminisced about working on the show and answered fan questions alongside a marathon. The next month's event was Greetings from Nickelodeon Studios, running from May 16th until the 20th. This weekend focused on shows filmed at Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando and aired old footage from studio tours, attraction promos, and the opening day celebration. This event was pretty cool since most of the Nickelodeon Studios opening day celebration was still lost media at the time, so it was nice to see clips of footage we didn't have yet. The weekend of June 10th saw the Splat premiere of The Amanda Show, which never aired on the 90s or all that, instead opting for a slot in Teen Nick's daytime lineup. In July, the Splat began celebrating Double Dare's 30th anniversary on the 22nd, when new Double Dare games were streamed on social media featuring veteran Nickelodeon cast members and Mark Summers himself. The week of the 25th consisted of an on-air celebration with episodes of the original series, Family Double Dare, and Double Dare 2000. August marked the start of Nickelodeon's 25-year animation celebration, and the Splat played a huge part in it. On August 11th, the block aired the premiere episodes of the first 3 Nicktoons. The following weekends focused on mini-marathons of all 3 shows and new Orange Couch interviews with cast and crew. Afterwards, the celebration kept going with more Nicktoons making their premieres on the block like Kablam, which many assumed would never air again due to copyright issues. Oh Yeah Cartoons, Action League Now, and Shock Zone. Even Pelswick was scheduled at one point, but was inexplicably replaced at the very last minute. On the weekend of October 22nd, the Splat showed 4 previously unaired episodes of As Told by Ginger. The only ways fans could complete the series up until this point were international recordings, DVDs, or iTunes releases. On November 23rd, the Splat simulcasted a 30th anniversary reunion special for Double Dare with Nick at Night. On the 27th, the new Legends of the Hidden Temple TV movie, loosely based on the classic game show, aired on the block after premiering on Nickelodeon. These would be the last major events for about the next 6 months. On May 1st, 2017, the Splat's name was changed to NickSplat to fit in with Nickelodeon's cross-branding strategy. The block stayed largely the same otherwise. For the weekend of June 17th, NickSplat aired a Pete and Pete takeover, where episodes of the show aired all weekend and featured commentary from stars Danny Tamborelli and Mike Maruna. This marathon marked the first time a full Pete and Pete episode aired on television since 2004. The following week, Nickflix was introduced to the block where Nickelodeon movies would play on Friday nights. August saw the month-long comeback of Snick to celebrate its 25th anniversary. Original Snick promos, short films, and interstitials aired in between shows. The next and last major event of 2017 would come from November 17th through the 24th, when NickSplat aired every episode of Hey Arnold in preparation for the premiere of the new and long-awaited Hey Arnold Jungle Movie. NickSplat itself premiered the Jungle Movie after it aired on Nickelodeon. 2018 didn't really see anything major for the block, and it remained rather stagnant aside from the occasional marathon of an overplayed show. However, a NickSplat channel launched on the short-lived Verve streaming service in August and featured a rotating selection of close to 30 Nickelodeon classics from both the 90s and the early 2000s. This channel was removed from Verve service just shy of 2 years later, and we'll discuss why in a bit. In January 2019, NickSplat suddenly began to sporadically air more 2000s Nicktoons, including Jimmy Neutron, Back at the Barnyard, Invader Zim, and Danny Phantom. On Friday, March 15th, all of NickSplat's social media pages suddenly rebranded to NickRewind without warning, and NickSplat's on-air block was replaced the following Monday. The block no longer focused on specific decades and tried its best to target all of Nick's demographics from the 80s until even the 2010s. But it kind of fell flat. NickRewind's packaging was done in-house at Nickelodeon. These bumpers felt uninspired and boring, especially when compared to the Splat. It felt like a copy of what Nick at Night was doing, and it just seemed to be a random mishmash of 90s things with no correlation or explanation. A VCR that spits out chicken nuggets? Okay. Roller skates popping popcorn? Okay. The Slinkies make sense, and so do the 90s cups getting slimed, but it still just didn't work for me. The lineup was mostly always filled with overplayed Nicktoons, All of That, and Keenan and Kel. Special events were very few and far between. On July 15th, NickRewind's time on the air became significantly shorter after Teen Nick tried experimenting by airing series from MTV and Awesomeness TV in its place. NickRewind was now slated to air nightly from 4 to 6 a.m. The MTV shows aired in place of NickRewind's original time slot were Teen Wolf, My Super Sweet 16, Parental Control, and Made. Shows from the Awesomeness TV entertainment company included Zack and Mia, Betch, Love Daily, and Guidance. This experiment did not last more than a few weeks before NickRewind returned to its original midnight time slot. Also in 2019, Viacom bought the free ad-supported streaming service PlutoTV, where many channels launched there featuring a variety of Nick programs old and new. In August, Netflix premiered 2 new movies based off classic Nickelodeon properties, Rocko's Modern Life, Static Cling, and Invader Zim, Enter the Florpus. Both were well received by fans, but they did not air on television because Nickelodeon wasn't particularly satisfied with the viewership for the Jungle Movie, which was also well received critically. Fast forward 2 years and NickRewind began playing more shows never seen on any of the nostalgia blocks before. My Life as a Teenage Robot, Mighty B, and El Tigre. In addition to classic shows, classic music videos would get played on the block too. It seemed like NickRewind was on track to be quite successful. That was until the launch of Paramount Plus on March 4th, 2021. The streamer featured a lot of Nick's library programming including Kablam, You Can't Do That on Television, and Eureka's Castle, mixed in with the more popular classics we all know and love. After this launch, it really seemed like the block stayed around just to advertise Paramount Plus. Also in 2021, Amazon's CreateSpace program for manufacturing DVDs on demand came to an end. All of the remaining DVD sets produced by them went out of print. Shout Factory even did a one-off collaboration with Paramount to release the complete series of Jimmy Neutron on DVD that October. This came as a shock, especially since Paramount released Rugrats, Rocko, and Hey Arnold through their own home video label earlier that year. Going back to PlutoTV. By this point, most of the classic Nick programming was aired exclusively on Fridays until 2022, when it was decided the channel would only focus on more modern content. 2022 also saw the end of the linear throwback block on Teen Nick after over 10 years. Around December 2021, the block was slowly being taken over by iCarly reruns with the NickRewind branding until that too was slowly phased out, making Teen Nick 24/7 again after January 31st. The block's cancellation was quietly announced through Twitter a few days later after fans asked about it. The social media accounts associated with the block remained active for approximately another year before being abandoned. Only the NickRewind YouTube page is still active to this day, but even that now primarily focuses on Nickelodeon shows from the 2010s, like iCarly, Victorious, and Big Time Rush. In 2023, PlutoTV launched 2 new channels focused around Nick nostalgia, but even those took a nosedive rather quickly. Nickelodeon's Totally Teen launched on June 27th and mainly featured iCarly, Victorious, Sam and Cat, Side Hustle, and Zoe 101. Even though shows like True Jackson VP and Every Which Way were seen in promotional material, they were hardly ever aired. Zoe, Victorious, Side Hustle, and Sam and Cat would all eventually be removed one by one, until Totally Teen essentially became the iCarly channel. Nickelodeon's 90s Kids launched on October 17th and suffered the same problem from the jump. That channel only airs Cat Dog, Doug, Hey Arnold, Rocko's Modern Life, and Rugrats. Not only that, but 90s Kids rotates one show a day, barely offering variety. Sometimes they'll air one show for an entire week. The channel added 2,000 shows like Danny Phantom, Jimmy Neutron, and Fairly OddParents for a very brief time in December. Both channels operate on a 4-hour schedule that loops 6 times a day, meaning you'll always see the same batch of episodes over and over again. I think this problem persists due to the fact that Paramount has persistently been pushing Paramount Plus since launch. Beginning in March 2024, the Totally Teen channel saw a slight improvement when it began showcasing other Nick series once a week on Sundays. Highlights included Unfabulous, Ned's Declassified, True Jackson, and Clarissa Explains It All. Unfortunately, this nice change of pace didn't last very long. By the beginning of May, the channel was back to airing mostly iCarly. To promote the release of the latest Ninja Turtles series, the 90s Kids channel began airing the original TMNT cartoon for a brief period. The Totally Turtles channel on PlutoTV has been home to reruns of Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra for whatever reason. Okay then. Okay, now let's shift gears a little bit. Cartoon Network and Disney Channel must have seen the initial success Nickelodeon encountered with these blocks as they attempted to make throwback blocks of their own. On Friday, March 30th, 2012 at 8 p.m., Cartoon Network relaunched Cartoon Planet as a weekly 1-hour block of cartoons featuring skits with Brack and Zorak during commercials. This version of the show was launched to celebrate Cartoon Network's 20th anniversary and showcase the network's library content. At first, shows that hadn't been seen on the network in a while, like the Cartoon Cartoons, Foster's, Flapjack, Chowder, and Camp Lazlo were the primary focus. However, as time went on, newer shows and Canadian imports were added due to the lack of ratings, and time slots were shifted around without notice until it was cancelled on February 8, 2014. Disney Channel aired Disney Replay starting on April 17, 2013 at midnight. The block aired once a week on Wednesday nights for an hour featuring Disney shows from the early 2000s. On August 14, 2014, the block began running from midnight until 6 a.m. on Thursdays before being cancelled on April 28, 2016. Disney would relaunch the block on Freeform under the name That's So Throwback on Monday, May 2nd, and now the block aired every weeknight. Most of the programming on the Freeform version of the block stayed the same, with the addition of animated series like Kim Possible and Disney Channel original movies to round out the week. I remember the block not lasting super long, and there's no real record of when it was cancelled. In more recent times, Adult Swim has tried to get in on the nostalgia trend. Checkered Past premiered on Monday, August 28, 2023 at 5 p.m. and airs from Monday through Thursday for 2 hours each day. The block primarily focuses on 4 Cartoon Network classics: Dexter's Laboratory, Ed, Edd and Eddy, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and Courage the Cowardly Dog. Sometimes shows like Cow and Chicken, Evil Con Carne, Samurai Jack, What a Cartoon, and the original Cartoon Planet may get thrown into the mix. So why is Checkered Past only starting now when Nick has long abandoned their throwback blocks? Little did we know, Cartoon Network was actually testing the waters during the network's 30th anniversary celebration, where they aired older shows. The reruns did well enough in the ratings to serve as a catalyst for what would become Checkered Past. The block's packaging really fits in with Adult Swim's usual surrealist packaging. Many of the bumpers repurpose Adult Swim's nature bumpers by placing animations of classic Cartoon Network characters within them. This seems a bit like a nod to the beloved Cartoon Network City era. Other bumpers can be quite random, highlighting different art or animation styles. To capitalize off the success of Checkered Past even further, Adult Swim introduced Toonami Rewind on May 31st, 2024. Airing on Fridays from 5 to 7 p.m., this block features Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z Kai, and Naruto, all presented uncut. Couldn't get away with that back in the day now, could ya? Sailor Moon's original English dub, produced by Deke Entertainment, is no longer in official circulation. The show is now airing on Toonami with a new dub produced by Viz Media. Nickelodeon has attempted to cater to its nostalgic fans, but seems to take a misstep at almost every possible turn. I'd argue the only successful venture in the nostalgia market was the DVD releases. Yeah, there's Paramount Plus, but it ain't doing all too well. All the television components fell into the same trap after a few months, becoming stale and almost unwatchable since the same episodes were being played non-stop. You could tell the drive to make something truly special was there in the beginning with the 90s Are All That and the Splat. But once NickRewind came around, it was obvious the spark that made those blocks special was gone, and it was only on T-Nick as tradition. I can only hope that PlutoTV's Nickelodeon channels improve in the long run, but I'm not holding my breath. Despite the shortcomings, I have enjoyed all of Paramount's, Disney's, and Warner Bros. Discovery's attempts at bringing back nostalgia for us adults.